What would you do when the whole world turns its back on you and your mother is lying on the edge of life and death? A 6-year-old boy, with no money and no one by his side, stands on a talent show stage with just one song, a song that might save his mother's life. But everything changes when the man sitting on the judges' panel turns out to be the father he's never known. This story will make you cry, laugh, and believe in the power of family love. Follow the extraordinary journey of Noah, the boy who sings with all his heart. Noah Bennett stood still in front of a crumpled poster that read in bold letters, "American Talent Kids, prize up to $50,000. The poster had been torn loose by the wind, hanging lopsided from a light pole outside an old bakery. But to Noah, it shimmered like a golden ticket to another life. The 6-year-old clutched a paper bag holding a cheese sandwich, the free breakfast the bakery owner gave him each morning. But this morning was different. He didn't rush back to the hospital like he always did. He just stood there, staring at the words, then quietly pulled a pencil from his pocket and scribbled on the back of the bag. "My name is Noah. I want to sing. My mom is in a coma. I need money so the doctor can help her wake up. I can sing back to you. My mom wrote that song for my dad. I don't know who my dad is, but I think if I sing good, someone will help my mom wake up. I promise to be good and not bother anyone." He slipped the paper into a submission box labeled contest entries on a makeshift counter at the town's community center. No phone number, no email, just faith. And the voice his mother used to sing him to sleep with, that very same song. 2 days later, an old pickup truck pulled up in front of the center. A man in a denim jacket and cowboy hat stepped out and scanned the list of approved contestants. His eyes stopped at the shaky handwriting. "Noah Bennett, age 6, singing back to you." His face darkened. That song, it couldn't be a coincidence. He was Jackson Cole, a former CMA-winning country singer, now returning as a judge after years out of the spotlight. That song was once a love ballad written for him by Rachel, the only woman he ever loved, who had quietly disappeared when he left to chase his career in Nashville. He bit his lip and looked up at the gray sky. It can't be her, and it sure can't be my son. At that very moment in a hospital room, Noah held his mother's hand and softly sang, "Back to you. I'll find my way, through every night and every day." In the cold light of the hospital, Noah's voice rang out. Small but steady. A nurse paused in the doorway and turned to look, not because of the song, but because Rachel's fingers gently moved. "They picked me, Mama," Noah whispered softly beside the hospital bed. He placed the reply letter from the talent show organizers on the table next to his mother's frail hands. The audition would take place this Saturday in the community hall at Riverdale High School. Noah didn't have a performance outfit, nor anyone to take him there. But that morning, he walked over 3 miles under the sun. His old canvas shoes were torn at the toes, the laces tied with thread. He held a folded music sheet tightly in his hands. His steps weren't fast, but his eyes shone like stage lights. When Noah arrived, the lobby was already packed with contestants. Most were kids dressed in glittery costumes, flanked by makeup artists, stage moms, and mini entourages. He stood out like a pencil sketch in a canvas of oil paint. A group of 3 kids near the registration desk snickered at him. "Hey you gonna sing in those pajamas?" A blonde girl said loudly, her voice dripping with sarcasm. "Looks like a beggar. Bet he came here for free bread, not to perform," a curly-haired boy added. Noah stayed silent. He didn't react. He just gripped his music sheet tighter and turned his face away. Inside the auditorium, the lights dimmed as it was Noah's turn. He stepped onto the stage, surrounded by a space so vast it made his legs tremble from the cold. One of the 3 judges glanced at the list. Next contestant, Noah Walker, 6 years old, singing Back to You. Jackson Cole froze the moment he heard the name of the song. His hand gripped the armrest. A subtle shiver ran down his spine. The small boy began to sing. At first, his voice was soft, a little shaky. But then he closed his eyes, placed a hand over his chest, as if touching something sacred from deep within. And in that very moment, his voice carried something almost magical. The tone was pure, young, yet it held a longing that made the entire room pause. The audience held their breath. A few began to tear up. There was no backing track, no effects. Just a boy, standing alone on stage, singing his mother's song, for the father who sat in silence, unaware. When he reached the final line, No matter the storms, I'll come back to you. The entire auditorium went still. No one clapped, not because they weren't moved, but because they hadn't remembered to breathe. Jackson shot to his feet. His lips trembled. "Rachel," he whispered, eyes locked on the boy. Jackson Cole slammed the judge's room door behind him, leaving behind the thunderous applause erupting for the next contestant. He didn't care. Only one thing echoed in his mind. Who is that boy? The silver ring on his pinky, once a gift from Rachel, felt cold as metal in midwinter. That song couldn't have been random. Rachel had written it just for him, on a night full of tears in the lakeside cabin at Windmere, nearly 3,000 days ago. He pulled out his phone, his fingers trembling as he typed into the search bar. Rachel Bennett, obituary. Nothing. No obituary, no article, no official notice of her passing. Just a faint line on a local news site. Rachel Bennett, music teacher at East Haven Elementary, was reportedly hospitalized 2 weeks ago following a severe car accident. Jackson went still. Meanwhile, backstage, Noah sat curled up on a wooden bench, clutching his old hoodie. He had just experienced something he couldn't quite name, like someone had truly been listening. Really listening. Through every note. A young woman in an event staff uniform walked over. "You sang beautifully, Noah. The judges would like to see you." Noah looked up. "Did I get eliminated?" The woman chuckled. "Quite the opposite. You're leading the qualifiers." Noah bit his lip and nodded softly. But deep down, the only thing he truly wished for wasn't to win. It was for a miracle, to wake his mom up. A few hours later, when Noah returned to the hospital, something about his mother's room felt different. The door was slightly ajar. A tall figure sat at the edge of the bed. Noah stepped in, cautiously. The man turned around. It was Jackson. He didn't smile. He didn't ask anything at first. He just stared at the boy for a long moment, then turned to Rachel, still lying motionless, her face pale as wax. "Do you?" he began slowly, his voice cracking. "Do you know who your father is?" Noah shook his head. "Mom never told me." Jackson inhaled deeply, his hand gripping the bed rail. He didn't ask anything else. Not because he didn't want to, but because he already knew. Noah's eyes, and that song only the three of them had ever known. Noah sat with his knees pulled up to his chest behind the curtain, headphones in, softly mouthing along to the background track his mom had once recorded on her old phone. The semifinals were held at the City Auditorium, 10 times grander than the qualifiers. Stage lights blazed, the audience was packed, and the whole thing was being live-streamed to thousands. But backstage, not everyone was cheering him on. "Hey, charity case, how long are you planning to cry on stage today to score sympathy points?" A sharp voice sneered behind him. It was Lexi, the daughter of a famous composer and the top contender in the kids category. She stepped closer, arms crossed. "I heard my mom say the head judge might know you. Got someone pulling strings, huh?" Noah stood up and tried to smile. "I'm just singing for my mom, not to beat anyone." "Right, but no one cares about your mom if you're not milking it for pity on stage." Lexi smirked. Then she pulled out her phone and held it up. Click! Noah flinched. "Imagine if that video of you crying and shaking from arrhythmia went viral. Do you think you'd even make it to the finals?" Noah bit his lip, heart pounding. But he didn't answer. He just pulled out his headphones and turned away. Elsewhere, Jackson Cole stepped out of a private lab, holding a pale yellow envelope, the urgent DNA test results. His chest felt like it was being squeezed. He could wait for the results, but he couldn't wait for his own heart. Opening the envelope, his eyes locked on a simple line. Probability of paternity, 99.998%. Jackson sank onto a bench, gripping the paper like both a sentence and a pardon. He wasn't ready to be a father, but he couldn't stay a stranger either. That night, when Noah stepped onto the semifinal stage, the lights seemed brighter than ever. But unaware to him, from a hidden corner in the audience, a video was already spreading, a maliciously edited backstage clip, leaked by Lexi. Contestant fakes tears to win judges' sympathy. The post's headline went viral. But then, something unexpected happened. Just as Noah began to sing, the entire sound system cut out. No music, no mic. The auditorium fell silent, and in that moment, Noah sang pure and raw, no mic, no music, and the whole hall seemed hypnotized. One audience member started clapping along, then a second, then the entire crowd. Jackson stood up, eyes glistening. "That's not technique," he whispered. "That's truth." Noah's song that night didn't need a mic to reach every corner of the listeners' hearts. When he left the stage, the audience rose to their feet, applauding nonstop. But he didn't smile. He just looked up at the sky, as if whispering something to his mother. In the judges' row, Jackson sat motionless. In the dim light, he felt like he was looking back 20 years to when Rachel played piano in a small Brooklyn cafe, her voice simple yet touching every cell. And now, Noah's voice was a miraculous copy, not in technique, but in spirit. In another corner of the auditorium, Lexi slammed her hand on the makeup table in anger. Why did the sound system fail right when he was singing? The crowd even stood up to clap. Janet, Lexi's mother and a powerful music producer, slowly took off her glasses, her voice steady but cold. You need to understand this, Lexi. In showbiz, talent isn't always the trump card. What wins is the strategy. Lexi frowned. What do you mean? Janet leaned in, whispering into her daughter's ear, her eyes flashing like a cunning fox. We're going to leak the connection between Noah and Judge Jackson Cole. If the public believes he's his son, everyone will think the contest is rigged. Lexi froze. But that might be true. I don't care, Janet smiled, as long as the audience believes it's unfair. Meanwhile, back in the hospital room, Noah returned to his mother's bedside. He held her hand and softly sang the old song, just like every night before sleep. Suddenly, his mother's hand twitched gently. Noah froze. Mom? A faint groan escaped. Rachel furrowed her brow, her lips trembling slightly. Then her eyes slowly opened, dim and heavy, as if awakening from a lifelong dream. Noah, she whispered, tears welling in her eyes. He burst into tears, burying his face in his mother's hand. Mom, I've missed you so much. Rachel's lips moved silently as she looked at her son, then slowly shifted her gaze toward the door, where Jackson Cole stood quietly, half shrouded in shadow. She was not surprised. She only gave a slight nod, as if she had known he would come back, just not when. Overnight, social media exploded. Rigged competition, Noah is the judge's son, like father, like son. Hashtags flooded every platform. A video went viral titled, Noah, the young contestant backed by Judge Jackson Cole? It showed edited clips, Jackson's emotional gaze at Noah, a brief handshake as the boy left the stage, and a blurry photo taken outside the hospital where Jackson had visited Noah's mother, Rachel. No one knew the source, but the public didn't wait for verification. In the organizers' meeting room, the atmosphere was tense. We must suspend Jackson from his judge position until the investigation is complete, the program coordinator declared. Right or wrong, the public is losing trust. Jackson stood tall, expression unrateable. I have not favored Noah. I didn't even know he was my son until a few days ago, he said calmly. If necessary, I will step down, but I will not apologize for loving my son. No one responded. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Rachel was more alert. Her eyes were still blurry, but her voice was clear. You don't have to step down, Noah. She held her son's hand. You deserve all the good things, even if I couldn't give you a perfect start. Noah bit his lip. They say I cheated. A lot of people call me a love child. Some even messaged me, saying I'm a freeloader. Rachel squeezed his hand. Do you know why they do that? She asked softly. Because you make them afraid. You have nothing but your heart, and that's stronger than anything. Noah bowed his head, hiding his face in his mother's chest. His small shoulders trembled. The next day, he faced the press, hair a little messy, eyes dark and tired but shining with determination. My name is Noah Bennett. My mother is Rachel Bennett. I only found out my father is Jackson Cole a few days ago. But I don't sing to meet him. I sing so my mother knows I won't give up. Behind him, Jackson stood silently. Didn't step forward, didn't interrupt, just smiled. But as Noah returned to the competition, a new storm was brewing. Lexi and her mother, Janet, hired a scandal blogger to dig into Rachel's past. Find out, Janet said coldly, what secrets that woman is hiding, because if we bring down the mother's image, then that boy will fall too. The first storm had just passed, but the undercurrents were about to surge. On Monday morning, the moment Noah stepped into the competition backstage, he noticed everyone avoiding his gaze. Some contestants whispered. Others looked at him as if he were a stain no one dared to touch. Before he could ask anything, Kayla, the organizer's assistant, shoved a phone into his hand. You shouldn't read this, but you need to know. Noah looked at the screen. The post was topping the trending charts. The truth about Rachel Bennett. The most controversial contestant's mother of the year. The sensational subtitle read, "Former bar singer tangled in scandal. Dropped out of school, unemployed, unplanned pregnancy, hiding her child from his biological father. Is this really the perfect mother Noah praises?" Noah read every line, his eyes blurring. They twisted words maliciously, deliberately cutting Rachel's time off school to care for her sick mother, then highlighting her bar work to support her child. Not a single word about her effort, sacrifice, or love for her son. Just scandal. At the hospital, Rachel saw the post too. She quietly turned off the screen, said nothing. "I'm sorry, Mom," Noah whispered, eyes glistening. Rachel stroked his hair gently, her voice soft. "Truth doesn't need anyone's belief to be true, Noah. But you don't have to keep going if you feel tired." Noah stayed silent for a long time. He remembered the nights in their leaking rented room, the two of them holding each other while listening to the rainfall. He remembered mornings when Mom woke early, juggling 3 jobs just so he could have enough milk boxes to take to school. He squeezed her hand. Mom didn't give up. Now it's my turn. At the production center, Jackson faced tremendous pressure. Sponsors threatened to pull out. The show's fan page flooded with comments demanding Noah's disqualification. "You should advise him to quit, Jackson," a colleague said. "He's a good kid, but the audience doesn't want a contestant with a scandalous mother on national TV." Jackson frowned. "They don't want the truth. They want a clean story that's easy to swallow." "Exactly. Then it's time," he turned, "to show them that only the truth is worth swallowing." Noah stepped onto the semifinal stage. No mic, no background music, just a chair and the old guitar his mother left him. He looked straight into the camera. "Today, I'm not singing to win. I'm singing so my mother knows that. No matter if the world turns its back, I will always stand by her." The song rose, raw, simple, no harmonies needed, just the truth, whole and unadorned. Noah's performance that day had an unexpected impact. Social media was initially quiet, but then comments started to appear one by one. "This kid doesn't need gimmicks. Just one song is enough to move people's hearts. He's only 6 years old, but has a bigger heart than most adults. I don't care who his mom is. I see the love." Public opinion began to split. On one side, harsh critics accused Rachel of being deceptive, a woman who knows how to exploit her child's tears to salvage her reputation. But on the other side, people started to lean toward Noah. The organizers, caught in the media storm, hesitated, unsure whether to disqualify the boy or send him straight to the finals. Then, at that moment, Lexi made her final move. She posted a short video on TikTok opening with the words, "I know this secret is true because my mother was the one who almost adopted him." In the video, Lexi laid out a series of documents in front of the camera. An old birth certificate copy, adoption center files, even a handwritten letter signed by Rachel. "I, Rachel Bennett, am no longer able to care for baby Luke. I consent to have him placed on the adoption waiting list." The name in bold, Luke Raymond Bennett. Noah, the boy who thought his name was Noah since the day he was born, had actually been prepared to be taken away from his mother's arms. The whole country was shaken. A new wave of outrage erupted. How can she be called a perfect mother when she once wanted to give up her child? Love? Or just regret after failing to find someone to adopt the baby? In the eye of this storm, Noah sat motionless in the hospital room. His eyes were vacant, his hands clutching the guitar like a lifeline in a raging sea. "Mom," his voice hoarse, "am I really not Noah?" Rachel choked up. "You are Noah. No matter what name you had at the start, no matter how weak I was, you have always been Noah, my son. Why did you hide it from me? Because I was afraid of losing you again." Silence fell. That night, Jackson appeared before the media, speaking directly to the camera for the first time. "When I found out I had a son, I wasn't angry about being kept in the dark. I was heartbroken for missing his childhood. But Noah is the strongest child I've ever known. Not because he sings well, but because he forgives. He chooses love instead of resentment." The story touched many hearts, but a bigger problem awaited ahead. Would Noah be allowed to continue the competition when his birth certificate didn't match the original registration name? The question left the organizers puzzled. Meanwhile, Lexi smiled her victorious smile. "You can't sing anymore, Luke," she said in the waiting room, her voice as sweet as poison. "You're not just a freeloader, you're a fraud." Noah lowered his head, but inside, a new fire had just been lit. The courtroom was packed, bright lights shining down on little Noah's face, the 6-year-old boy standing silently in the eye of the storm. Not out of guilt, but to prove that he was truly Noah Bennett, the son of Rachel, his mother lying in the hospital in a coma. Yet now, the truth about his real name, Luke Raymond Bennett, and the adoption records made everyone doubt. The organizers' lawyers presented the birth certificate, adoption documents, and evidence accusing Rachel of wanting to give her child up for adoption. They argued Noah was ineligible to compete because his paperwork was unclear. Rachel, with sad eyes and a trembling voice, stood up and testified. "I made mistakes, but my love for my child has never changed. Noah is the name I gave him. It symbolizes our new life." Suddenly, the courtroom door opened and a man entered. It was Jackson Cole, Noah's biological father and a powerful judge on the talent show. All eyes turned to him. Jackson stepped forward, his voice warm but resolute. "I know there's doubt. I walked away when Rachel was pregnant to pursue my career. But now, I want to do what's right for my son, Noah." He spoke of the years apart, his burning regret upon learning Noah was his son, the efforts to find him, and finally, his decision to come to today's talent show to protect him. Jackson moved beside Noah, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. "You're not just Noah or Luke," he said. "You are my son, our hope." The courtroom fell silent in that touching moment. The judge looked into Noah's eyes and asked, "What name do you want to be called?" Noah smiled and confidently replied, "Noah, Your Honor. That's the name I choose." The final decision was announced. Noah Bennett was officially recognized and allowed to continue competing. The press began to change their tune, covering the touching story of Noah's family, their journey overcoming prejudice, and their tearful reunion. When the trial ended, Jackson embraced Rachel and Noah. "We're going to start over, together," he said. Noah looked up at his father, his heart full of hope. "I've found my real family," he thought quietly, his eyes shining in the sunlight streaming through the window. The talent competition had reached the final round. The stage glittered with lights, and the audience awaited the last moments of a journey filled with tears and emotion. Noah stood backstage, his small hands tightly gripping the guitar, his lifelong companion. Though still very young, Noah had grown so much through the storms he had faced. Rachel stood beside him, her eyes full of pride and love for her son. Behind them was Jackson, the father who had returned to their lives, no longer a distant shadow, but a steady pillar of support. Jackson gently held Rachel's hand, their eyes exchanging unspoken words. The stage called Noah's name. The applause erupted, as if to ignite the flame of hope in the boy's heart. Noah stepped forward, the spotlight shining on his innocent yet determined face. He began to sing, the song his mother once sang to him, a private melody filled with all the love and hope of their small family. As the final notes echoed, the entire hall rose to their feet, applauding nonstop. It was not just applause for a talented boy, but for a story of love, forgiveness, and the strength of family. Jackson stepped onto the stage, holding the microphone out to Rachel. The entire audience gasped as he dropped to one knee, holding a small box open before everyone. "Rachel," his voice warm and steady, "we've now overcome every hardship together. You are an amazing mother, a trustworthy partner, and the love of my life. Will you marry me and build this home with me?" Tears streaming down her cheeks, Rachel nodded. "You know I do. You know I do." Her voice choked with happiness. The crowd erupted in joyful cheers, the room echoing with applause. Noah ran forward, wrapping his arms around his parents, feeling the warmth of a complete family for the first time. That day wasn't just the end of a talent competition. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one of reunion, love, and hope. The three of them, once broken and apart, were now truly a family. Noah, with his guitar in hand, had sung not only to save his mother, but to save his own heart and his parents as well. Life can begin anew from wounds, and love has the power to heal everything. And so, Noah's journey, the poor boy who sang with all his heart, was not just a story about a contest, but a story of love and forgiveness overcoming every obstacle. A beautiful ending, a fresh beginning.